Hello, everyone. Yes, welcome to the end of February. Not quite, but maybe this will be our last show in February. This is Zach from GBC. Tonight, we're going to have Troy and Vic on to take your tech questions, and don't have a lot of pomp and circumstance going into all this. If you are in the Sacramento area this weekend, come. I'll be at Huffmaster. I don't know if I know registration closed, but you still might be able to sign up at the event. Not too sure about that. But then on Sunday, we're doing a Send It out of Bike Dog Brewery, the West Sac location, and I guess they will be announcing very soon an East Sac location, bringing it to 3. So it'll be a fun ride, kind of like a cool-off ride on Sunday morning. So let's just bring everybody in here. So, hello, crew. How's it all going?
Hello, hello.
Hello, Zachary.
You know, I was looking at the internets today, Vic, and did you have some type of special announcement today?
I do.
Oh.
I don't know if Troy knows about this. So, I have become a man of importance, a man of mystery. No. No, it's really cool. I've actually been asked to be a official ambassador for the Sea Otter Classic. And so that's what I'm doing. Thank you, Troy. That's big coming from you. Yeah, Zach and I are both ambassadors along with some other fine people. Allison has been on the show many times, and Cycling Jenny and some other people that I've yet to meet in person, but we're going to do this and it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. Like, I know that you and Swanee have been going for years, and obviously you, Troy, but finally, I guess in 2022, I was like, all right, I'll go. And yeah, it's pretty cool. I know the gravel event was kind of tricky the first year, and then they made big improvements last year. And it sounds like this year it's going to be even way better, less single tracky.
Yeah.
And a lot more taking advantage of those really cool.
Isn't that the best part?
Troy.
The single track?
Yeah.
Troy, I know you won't bring a gravel bike to this event. But Fort Ord has so much great fire roads. And it was funny because like when we were doing the course last couple of years, I was like, how come we're not doing those?
Exactly.
It's just so big. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm also glad. I'm guessing it's not going to be as long as most gravel races, which I actually like. I was talking with Mig from Grasshopper, and like how Low Gap, starts off the year and it's like only 45 miles, but it's a rocket of a race. You're just going the whole time. And I kind of feel like most gravel races are
too long.
5-6 hours. I mean, even the Cobbler, we started at 8, we finished
it was 8 hours.
Yeah. So it's kind of nice to actually have a shorter race, and it kind of makes sense too because you got the whole festival there, so you can stay bikey without having to be on a bike all day grinding it. So looking forward to this year.
Yeah, it should be a lot more gravelly this year.
And I think if it's a little shorter, then you kind of could save your legs and do the mountain bike race the next day, or you could do a road race a couple days before. You wouldn't be so worried about saving your energy and not walking around the festival all day.
Exactly. Because I'm going to do the XC race as well. So I don't want to kill myself in the gravel ride. And
you didn't want to do the same loop twice?
No.
2 days in a row, different bikes?
That's what happened last year. It was funny. It was like the gravel race was a recon for the XC race.
Yeah.
Which was kind of strange, honestly. But this year it will be great.
Nice.
So for people that are hopefully watching here, if you have any tech questions, Troy is who I turn to whenever I've got technical questions. seems to be able to explain it, not just from a highly technical standpoint, but also for people with rudimentary knowledge of bikes like I do. Like,
I heard you had a technical issue today.
Yeah, I heard that too. What happened today?
So I was riding it's kind of a commuter bike, and I would have taken my road bike out today, but it was so muddy up in the hilly area that I said, I should probably get something with a little more width on there. Up along Mulholland, and I know I had put this chain on right before I did my Lost Coast trip. So that was probably late June of 2022. But I don't ride this bike like I do any of my gravel bikes. It's generally a commuter, not long. And I was near the end of the ride, and I had a short little punchy climb near Bill Toth's house. And right near the top, I was like, oh no, my rear derailleur came off. And because I couldn't see where it went. But then I just realized, I felt like it was like, a snake is sliding away. I looked back on the road, and that was the chain. And so, I was close enough to Studio Cycles that I said, well, it's probably just quick enough if I just coast downhill from here, make it in, and they were able to put a chain on. But going back to our LA Tourist race, the same thing happened to me on my other bike, which is weird because for however many years I've been on a bike, this has never happened to me. And I'll be honest, I'm intimidated by having a chain brake, and I still don't have a tool because I'm like, if I have one of these tools, will I really know what to do with it? But is it really, we made it in our video look kind of complicated, but it's like replacing a cracked chain like really as hard as I'm making it out to be.
No. And I think a chain breaker, you've got a broken chain now. You've got 40 links you can practice taking it apart. But I think a chain breaker is like one of those things that's if your chain breaks, it's the end of your day. So it's a good tool to have, and to know how to use, obviously, and to route the correct way through the derailleur.
That was my bad. And the funniest thing about that is I said it out loud. I said, I did this wrong before. And then I routed it wrong again. And I couldn't
what happens
I
is
thought
that
about it.
A lot of people don't.
I didn't look at it from the backside.
Yeah, you got to put the tension down on it a little bit so you can see it cross. Otherwise, when it's all together, it's hard to tell that it goes up and over.
I had it locked out. I had it completely open.
Well, see, locked out is almost worse because then it just drops straight down right.
Yeah. And so I didn't look at it from the backside
and make sure it wound the right way.
It was around the right way, but it was on the outside of that little bridge on the bottom pulley. It's like a little support bridge. On the bottom.
Actually, wait, you routed it around the little carbon tip on the back?
On the back. So on the bottom pulley wheel, the cage has a little bridge like on the back of it. So instead of going over the teeth and out, I went across the top of that and then on the bottom of the teeth.
Oh, most people route it the wrong way past the pin. That's between the first and the second one.
No, it was routed correctly, the direction, but it was on the outside of the cage on the bottom. You have to look at it. It's just, it wasn't, I didn't route it wrong as far as direction. I routed it on the outside of the cage. Anyway, I thought about it and still did it.
Well,
and I was so mad at myself.
And the manager and the foreman, Zach, should have seen that there was an issue.
No, as soon as we started pedaling, I knew what it was. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. As soon as he started going, I knew exactly what was wrong. But then we couldn't open the quick link anymore.
Yep.
Because I didn't have, so now I have quick link pliers. I won't do that again, I hope. But now I have quick link pliers with me. So, you can close it with no tool, but you can't open it. It's like almost impossible. So anyway, that was my bad. I own it. And so stupid because I thought about it and still did it anyway. I don't know what the hell. I spaced.
There is a way to do it using the chain ring.
Yes, we tried that, but we couldn't do it.
Okay.
We tried that. We're pushing it up against into one of the like a valley and pushing the quick link and hitting it. But it wouldn't come out. It wouldn't undo. We tried that. So we
brand new ones are tough.
It was way too tight. It was doing its job. No. So we just took the rear pulley off and redid it, and that was fine, but that took a lot of time. Yeah. Sorry, Zach. That was my bad. I own that.
Well, I was going to bring this up too, and CJ here is in the wolf tooth tool.
That's what I have.
Okay.
And
I was looking like what are some
it carries 2 links
recommendations?
too. It carries 2.
That's the one that's also a tire lever, right? It's a tire lever.
Yep. Tire lever, chain, quick link tool, and it's like a magnetic thing. You can carry 2 extra quick links, which I have 2 with me. Yeah, it's awesome.
2 complete ones or both sides? Okay.
2 complete ones. 4 links.
Real bad day.
You never know. I should have it right here. But yeah, bad day, but I'm ready next time.
Now, I remember talking about essentials to bring along. I think when Yumi and Dom, we did a ride, I got a tire puncture, and we used our little tweezers and threw that in.
I wasn't there on that one. I heard about that.
Tweezers?
What do you call them?
A tire plug?
Tire plug, yes.
Tweezers.
I try and speak for people that don't know about cycling. And that worked, and it held pretty well.
Keep your tire plug kit.
Yeah.
Recently, I actually used a car tire plug in my bicycle because I had such a large opening.
Did that work?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of tire plugs, like we had a big talk a couple weeks ago, about the rock cobbler because of all the potential mud, and actually didn't end up being as tough as it was made out to be.
No, not at all. Not for mud.
Yeah.
The rest of it was super tough, but it wasn't because of mud.
But there was a big scramble to try and figure out what type of tires to use for the cobbler. And, I stuck with my 45s because the loft has plenty of clearance. And I just said, why not side with bigger? It was almost too big for it, but there was definitely some sections I did appreciate for it. But it does bring a great question, because I really do not have too many tires to look to for mud. And I'm just wondering, Troy, what are some of your recommendations for tires with, and I think the other thing that sometimes people that are starting, they're like, oh, we're going to need a lot of tread for mud tires. And I don't think people understand exactly what you should be looking for. Do my tires serve well enough in the mud?
Like a mud tire, usually the blocks have pretty large gaps, so they're not really great to use for a lot of gravel because it can be quite bumpy. Because what happens is you want that tread to kind of grab into the mud, but you also want it to shed the mud out the sides, and so you don't want a lot of blocks and a lot of parts to hold the mud in. Today I did a little recon, and I was in some serious mud. Clay's probably even worse than mud. And, I had a pretty tight pattern tire, big blocks, but they were close together. And my tire was like a 5.0 at one point. It was hitting on both chain stays, both seat stays, seat tube, it was fork legs. So definitely not the best tire. And sometimes with mud, the best choice is just smaller, right? Because you're not going to float over it a lot of times. So getting one that just gives you a lot more tire clearance so that the mud has someplace to go as it's sticking to the tire. I think it depends on obviously where you're at and what it's made of. Today it was clay, so it was not coming off. I mean, it wouldn't come off with the hose at home. I had to like actually scrape it. So, yeah, but for like proper mud tires, we don't have them around they're hard to find in SoCal, to be honest. I have a couple. I don't use them very often, and most of them are like a 34, 30, maybe a 36 size. But sometimes less tread, less knobs is better because it doesn't have anything to like really hook onto. You also don't have traction, but you don't have to worry about it packing into the tire and all the tread and being hard to get off. It just doesn't have anything to stick to. So, that was a suggestion I just made to someone earlier today when they were asking, should I go bigger for this weekend? And I said, no.
I had what you just said is my exact experience at the rock cobbler I ran. 35s, Continental Terra Speeds. They have tiny, tiny little knobs. And I had no problem with mud packing up, but I didn't have much traction either.
Yeah.
So it felt sketchy sometimes, but I didn't get bogged down. Like the year before, I used my mountain bike with giant tires and I was stuck. And you laughed at me.
Sometimes
you laughed at me so hard.
Sometimes when your tire is spinning, but you're not going very fast, it's better than not spinning and not moving at all.
Yeah, well.
Meaning like if you've got so much mud that it stops the rotation of your tire, it's a really bad day.
It was bad, and I couldn't ride anymore. I had to push and dig out, and then I kept getting stuck because I had no clearance. So this time I had no problem with mud packing up, but traction was a little sketchy. But overall, it was the right call for the skinny tires.
You know, someone asked a question online a couple days ago. I don't remember on which gravel forum I'm on, but it was about, two different bikes. And I was essentially like, look, this is an all-road bike. It does fine in gravel, but when things are more extreme or more adverse, the real gravel bike with more clearance and bigger, longer geometry just does better because it's more stable. It's got more room for the tire and the, mud clearance when you are running the max size tire or close to it. Like the Lauf you've got. The Lauf is got a lot of clearance. Actually, the Grizzle. Do you have a Grizzle?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was saying the Grizzle's got a lot of room too.
Yeah. Well, with my skinny tires on, it looks like I could put 2 tires on the front. I mean, I have a lot of room.
And that's good, especially if you think it's going to be muddy. I mean, that's what you theoretically want.
Yeah, I've got a lot of clearance right now.
Well, I guess just to follow up on this with mud tires, do you want a tire that has like no sideburns on them? Like the WTB Riddler has the little sideburns, which I actually kind of like for most gravel, but I've never used it on mud. I'm just wondering if that would just inhibit you from shedding mud, because they seem to have a pretty low tread profile on them, which looks great for mud, but I just don't know if they can shed mud correctly.
So sometimes having that slightly taller side knob will help when you start getting a little loose, like when you're trying to stop or you're trying to brake or you're trying to ride up on the edge of like you're trying to go around, like let's say a muddy spot and you're trying to stay on the edge. Sometimes that'll help. But one thing I try to remind people is, depending on the type of mud you're going through, sometimes it's okay to go through the wet part of it, just because when you go through the grass, all the mud that's stuck to your tires then picks up all the grass and all the sticks and all the leaves, and then that gives the mud more stuff to stick to once you get out of it. So it can create more of a mud pie on your tires by trying to cut through the tall grass section rather than just following through the regular trail.
I did that too. I did that on the mountain bike. I had like some kind of cow pie grass vegetation thing. It was horrible. So yeah.
And so sometimes going through at least one little wet section, you're going to get splashed or, but it can help shed some of that compacted mud off because it gets it wet. It loosens it up a little bit.
Yep.
Okay, we're here to take questions. We won't go too deep into this one. Y'all making out to the LA tourist race. You are, obviously, you don't miss one. I
rode 4 of the 5 checkpoints today.
Well, it's right by your house. You probably just.
I know. You just go out your door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only one I skipped was the one that's closed.
Oh yeah.
But I will say there were like 20 cars in the parking lot, the parking lot outside of the gate. So there was a lot of people back there not listening to this big red sign posted across the front of it.
Closed because of the storm damage, or closed because of what?
Well, so there's a big like canal river that goes right through there that sheds the water from up off of Oak Mountain and all of that, and there's not a really good way around it, and it's deep and it's going really fast. So and I mean, and back there that spot gets pretty sloppy. That whole mountain over there on the Towsley East Canyon side, that's all clay. Like there's no decomposed granite. So it's really soft. It's really mucky, even when it hasn't rained very much. So right now it's soft.
Are you going to do a mountain bike again?
I haven't decided. Most of this route, you don't need a mountain bike.
Mm-hmm.
And I did one of the trails today, and I had to cross the river, which I don't know. If you go up and go back, then you wouldn't have to cross the river, but then you have to go through more clay. So I technically also don't have a mountain bike that works. My rear wheel is still broken from LA Taurus number 1 2022.
22?
Huh?
2 years ago?
Or 23. I don't know. A year. It's been over a year. It's been broken for a year sitting in my garage. And the bike I rode at the last one I sent back last week. So I realized that I don't have a rear wheel on my mountain bike, on my XC mountain bike. So we'll see what happens.
Would you like to borrow? Would you like to borrow a wheel? I have
no. No, I might ride. I'll probably ride my Lauf or my GT, or not my GT, my Giant. I've got a Giant Revolt X with the suspension and the dropper post and all that. So I can still get pretty rowdy on that thing. That'd be fun.
Okay.
But I got a dropper post on the Lauf as well. So come on.
All right. Another question here, going back to Sea Otter. What tires would you advise running the Centauro 45s? Centauro. They added an extra syllable in there that was unnecessary. I guess it's kind of hard to say without the route reveal, but if it is on the fire roads there, I think you could. It's those fire roads are really great shape. I think you could probably go on the skinnier side. Last year I was on 42 Resolutes, which kind of like spoke a little bit more to the single track, but I feel like the fire roads, because they're in use, you could probably get away with like 40, 38.
I think it really just depends on how much they take you off the fire roads, and because down there, depending on the water and the rain, there can be some pretty sandy spots if you're not
Yep.
even on the fire roads. You can come around a turn and there can be a bit of sand, but other than that, I mean, almost any tire is pretty solid. 650B 2.4. That's a big tire.
That's a huge tire.
Yeah, that might be for a different race. Yeah, I would probably guess a little skinnier, but we'll probably have to wait and see until the route reveal, which I guess is next Friday. So I'm sure we'll be talking about the route here at some point. This is something I want to circle back to. We talked about a few episodes ago, but I think we talked about before we had this format was your GT grade. And I just never looked at the geometry of this thing before. And I was like, wow, this is pretty fascinating. There's so much going on here. I'll throw the webpage up. But yeah, this is not your average looking gravel bike.
No, it's a triple triangle. GT's known for their triple triangles. And this is the third version of the GT grade. And it's really good. The only downside to this bike is it was supposed to probably come out a year and a half earlier. So a lot of the drivetrains and the components that you'll see are, I don't want to say dated, but they are definitely not the newest of the new, but still a solid bike. I have one. I have a buddy that has one. He absolutely loves it. This is the X, so this one's the one with the suspension and the larger cassette in the back.
It looks hella slack.
And a dropper post on this one. It's that long. It's very similar to the Lauf. It's very long, very stable. You can go very fast without really feeling like you're going really fast. I think that's kind of this style of bike is what I like, because I don't mind a bike like a race gravel bike that feels very fast all the time. But when you're going really fast on a bike that feels very fast, when you're going slow, it feels sketchy. And this bike does not. This and like the Lauf, and there's lots of bikes in this style. Even the Verge would kind of go in this type of category where it's going to be more confidence inspiring when you're riding really fast. And so dropper posts are incredibly uncomfortable, right? So like if your bike relies on seat post kind of flex for comfort, then adding a dropper post of any sort will essentially eliminate that. So this bike, the seat stays do not touch the seat post there where they cross. And so there's a lot of flex that you get out of that. So running a dropper post on this, you still get a lot of rear end compliance out of the bike. That's one of the big advantages to this system that they have here. There's a few dropper posts that like have a little cushion on the top, like the top of it feels like a RockShox one that's broken. Like the RockShox ones, if it's down and you lift the bike up from it, it breaks them. Like you have to like redo the whole thing. There's Giant makes one. I think KS makes one. A couple companies make one where the top, like when it's all the way up, the top couple millimeters are soft. But then if you maybe you'd have to drop it like a millimeter to get that. I don't remember which way it is, but that's one of the few dropper posts. Those are the few dropper posts that can still have a little bit of compliance in them. Otherwise, dropper posts are extremely rigid so that they don't bind and they don't have issues. So if you have a bike that's very reliant on a seat post flex for comfort, then don't add a dropper post.
Well, you mentioned it, and we haven't brought this bike up, and I'm really curious. And this is the Diverge STR.
Oh, this is the STR, so this is even more extreme. But yes, I have actually. This is one of. I've only ridden this bike for like 5 miles. I have not spent a lot of time on it, but the wheelbase and the geometry on it, and the front, it's very similar to the regular Diverge of the past, and this is a really cool concept, though. I mean, this allows you to run, a dropper post, and it just gives you more flexibility in the whole system. It is a little complex, and it is very. If something breaks, you're gonna be. There's only one place you can get parts for it from. So.
Well, just looking at it, it looks a lot more racy, the geometry, than that GT. It doesn't look nearly as slack. Am I wrong?
Well, this one, what happens with this is it's got a lot of movement, and so your cockpit, the way you sit over the bike is going to be changing. So it's suspending the rider. That's what Specialized has been really good at with the Future Shock and a bunch of stuff. Is it suspending the rider, not the bike? When like the Lauf suspension fork or like a RockShox fork or something like that actually suspends the entire bike at the same time. So this is kind of helping isolate the rider from the bike and the bumps.
Oh, well, I was going to Dom from TGIF, I think Gravel's Friday, had set me up with one for last September, but then people were visiting, caught COVID. So I had to rely on your short, little quick review here. Another thing that I wanted to bring up, and over this time of year, we have him on, but he didn't make the call this year. This is John from Gravel Cyclist. And he did this little review of, I don't even know what you call it, but this little mini pump that maybe replaces CO2. And I know, Troy, you've got a very intimate relationship with tire pressure, and wondering what you think about these products.
I put some fresh batteries in my what are they called? My SRAM. What are the tire pressure gauge things?
Tire Whiz.
Tire Whiz. I put brand new batteries in it today. This is cool. Like if you're on the side of the road, this is cool. The only downside is that these don't do a big burst, and so you may still need a CO2 depending on your situation and if you're tubeless and if the bead pops off and all of those sorts of things. These little pumps don't normally do that very well. But if you get it beaded on or the bead doesn't come off and you just needed to plug something, this is a really convenient way to pump it up. Obviously it's battery powered. So like everything else battery powered, you can forget to charge batteries like I always do. And you can get out in the middle of no place and then you're still stuck. So personally, I still prefer a just good old fashioned hand pump all the time. But I do try to leverage something like this or a CO2 or something that is a little faster just to get you back on the road. But at the end of the day, I always recommend at least having one hand pump amongst whoever you're with.
Yeah, that's good advice. I've definitely been situations where Vic you've gone through a few CO2 cartridges for me, haven't you, in the past?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, plenty. Yeah, way too many.
And to be honest, like CO2, the CO2 like heads, those have not to have a lot of issues, but they're prone to have more problems than because they get really, really cold, then they get hot in your bag, and then they get kicked around, they get dirt in them, and then you can't get the CO2 to open up all the way, or maybe you pop the CO2, but then it starts, exhausting all of the pressure before you get it on your tire. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. And so something like this is a great alternative, but it's really hard to beat that like large volume of air and quick volume of air that you can get, especially if you're running tubeless, modern tubeless.
This is the bomb.
Oh, those are old school. That thing is sweet.
These are the best. I never have any problems with these. Those screw-on ones, I mess that up every time.
And that one you can use threaded or non-threaded.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have threaded in it. It'll take non-threaded. It's not the lightest, but it's not stupid heavy. So these are great. And I found my wolf tooth. This is the thing.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. But that little hand pump thing, that little electric pump, I watched Jom's review, and the noise that thing makes is just insane. It's so loud. I couldn't believe how loud it was. It sounds like a full-size compressor. It's really.
I don't think it's that. It was probably just the way the positioning of the microphone. They're loud, but they're not. It's
okay. I was like, oh my God, that's just terrible how noisy that is. I would be embarrassed.
But that's what it is. It's a really, really small electric compressor. So
yeah, it sounds like a full-size compressor. Garage compressor.
So yeah, I've seen this note before too about maybe 2 tire inflations, but I've also said like maybe just carry around like a USB cable or something like that. If you're to stop, you need to.
And what do you plug it into?
One of those bricks.
Or coffee or something,
a what? A what?
Coffee. Brunch.
No.
You
stop. Oh,
yeah. You can recharge it in between. That's like I have my own charger too. Now, kind of following up on our interesting, somebody brought this up about our suspension bikes, the Niner MCR Magic Carpet Ride.
I have one of those. It's sweet.
Yes, and I know it's very contentious right now because they are. It's been discontinued, correct?
It is being discontinued. It is not clear on what the future holds. They're keeping it very close. But I really enjoy this bike. I mean, if you understand what the bike is for, it does a really good job for that. Is it heavy? Yes. Do you notice it? Not really.
Not really.
But it does a really good job at like washboard, really like just that non-stop bump, like bumps all the time, rain ruts, like just, it does a really good job at that. So it's not a full suspension, mountain bike, right? Like compared to a full suspension mountain bike, it's not anything like that. It's not made to be like that. So I think that's probably its demise, is that it was just not understood. But in the right circumstance, it is so good.
It's misunderstood.
It's so good. I can't. It's one of the few bikes I own. And I own it because I've been in situations where I'm like, that is perfect. That's the bike, and you can't beat it. So, and it fits a 2x, which I really appreciate. I mean, I know 1x is like the thing right now, and all the cool kids have it, but I really like 2x, especially if you're going fast.
Well, yours and Amanda's, no, I haven't even seen hers. Yours and that guy, Jake the Snake.
Oh, yeah.
He's got like 5 of them, though. He's got like one of every build you can get.
They're super rare.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen them, but it's usually when I'm in like, I saw a couple of them. I was in Colorado for something, and we were on this back road, and it was just maybe 10 miles of just washboard. And there was like 2 people that had them, and they're like, yeah, we ride this like same loop all the time, and this is like the only bike for it. So
they need a new loop.
They do need a new loop, but
washboard
it's
is the
like
worst.
right next to this highway. So it's either ride on the highway where everyone's going like 70, or you ride on this dirt road that kind of like runs along it. And
yeah, I mean,
this guy needs some longer socks, is what this guy needs.
Oh boy, sock shaming. I didn't know we'd go down to that level.
I mean, he's got some well-toned legs, but he needs some proper socks.
Well, I mean, to me though, like this falls in the category. This is a bike that some people really, really love, and then some people really hate it. But like, you don't need everybody to love a bike for a bike to be successful. No. I think this, the people that are in there, and I think the other thing too is like, if this is your one gravel bike or one bike, like you probably aren't going to love it because it may not hold well for most of the other stuff, unless you're living in the washboard highway region.
I mean, the bike is incredibly fast, and the upside is you can stay in the saddle almost all the time. Like you don't have to get out of the saddle to go through anything. It's one of those bikes where if you just want to put the power down, it does a great job of that. It weighs more than my XC mountain bike. That's its biggest downfall, is that it's heavy. And it doesn't help that like the Fox fork that's on that one and that they have been selling with it,
it's gone. Yeah, it's
the
gone.
new Fox fork and the new RockShox, those are significantly better. But this one, if it comes with this one, you can take it apart. You can make it like a 80 mil XC fork and then get a different suspension fork. That's what I would say.
Well, I rode your bike and it didn't feel, I think it was like 27 pounds, something like that. Didn't feel like that at all. So that was a plus.
And that was when it had this fork. With the other fork, it feels a lot better. My only issue is that like I bought a couple of extra derailleur hangers, a bunch of little tiny parts that, once a bike gets discontinued, it can be hard to find some of those parts if you break something. So I ordered a couple of those small parts. But yeah, that rear shock, there's only one shock that fits it. So hopefully mine never has problems.
Good luck with that.
Well, and I think like this is a good comment from Anton. I think he meant Redshift, but can you find other ways to find suspension without, having?
I have a Redshift stem on my GT. I have the Pro one, which is less actual physical movement. It's a lot stiffer and lighter. But those, I don't dislike the Redshift seat post, or there's another company that makes it. I'm totally blanking on their name. But the seat post and the stem, they work well, but they change your seating position a lot. And they change your position over the pedals while you're pedaling, which can, if you're not used to it, actually, even if you're used to it, it can make you tired and sore a lot faster because your leg length is essentially changing all the time, and your position over it is changing a lot more often. That's where like the Niner really does shine. But if you've got a gravel bike that is incredibly uncomfortable, or you've got an older gravel bike or something like that, those items are priceless. They're really good to make a really stiff bike more comfortable.
Yeah, and I know it's like right now. Yeah, I mean, you should almost grab one at this price because what did they used to sell for? $4,000.
I think like the frame and fork was like $4,600, $4,500, and so this is $1,500 if I remember correctly. I wrote a story about it, but that's the frame and fork, but it's the older fork, and then you can get a frame only, I think, for $1,200.
Wow, look at this! You
And
can
you
get
get
a
a
whole.
complete bike.
Wow.
But for
Wow,
thirty three
that
hundred
is
bucks, you
good.
can get a pretty significant bike from Lauf or from GT or from a lot of other brands. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't, but
But this is for this bike and everything. Yeah, you can
they
get a
only
whole
have
build.
3 sizes, 2 or 3 sizes in the MCR. That's the other part that made it kind of held it back, is that they only have 53, 56, and I think 50 or 61 or 60 or
69.
something.
It looks like 59.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
You gonna get one, Zach?
On my
You'd
budget,
have to ride outside to need it.
It doesn't work on Zwift.
I would just break a chain.
And the EE Silk seat post, that's a really lightweight version, and it has a lot less travel, but it works really well if you just need a little bit of comfort. It even works great on road bikes. I say the EE one, if you've got a bike that's got a round seat post, it works great on the road bikes as well. Take the edge off the little bumps.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we're going to wrap up here. We got a lot of tech talk in here, and still can't afford another bike, but still figuring out with the ones that I got, and loving that. And I haven't even thought about getting my next bike, but
How
That's
about
all I think
tubeless?
about.
How have you liked tubeless?
I've had tubeless for a while.
Yeah, but have you had any issues other than the one that I fixed for you on the side of the road?
Yes. When I ride with Vic in remote places, he seems to get pretty terrible tire slashes. And it takes about an hour before we try and figure out how to plug it, and then we just end the ride. So yes, I've had issues with
your issues. I don't have any issues.
I may try a mountain bike while I'm out there at Sea Otter. Why not?
Write that down. Say, what did you just say?
I may.
What?
I didn't say I will. I may.
Why not?
There's a family ride on the Sunday, and I don't know if my family will come up, but if I do, I would like try and get some mountain bikes for them. I guess they're adding an off-road family ride, which I'm kind of curious for Sea Otter, like what that would look like, because it's hilly there.
I was going to say the downside to that is that all things end uphill at Sea Otter.
They do. That is true.
It would be terrible
If you leave the property
where the drummers are.
No, they'll bring you up the road, the paved road, like at the gate. The first time I went, we finished the Fondo and we had to climb that thing back, and I wasn't really ready for that. I couldn't believe how hard that was. Oh man, 2012. So, but on an e-bike, it will be a lot better, obviously. So,
yeah,
and they're not going to take you on a super long ride, on a family ride. I doubt.
Well,
No, they'd probably do something like they used to do on the short course. They used to have they used to do the mountain bike short course, which just went around the dual slalom course and through the woods, and then turned back around and came back.
Yeah,
so,
you probably won't leave the property.
Oh yeah.
That will be great.
Hopefully through Taco Man's house.
No.
All right. Well, Troy, thanks for coming on. I'm sure
Of
we'll
course.
be teching and talking soon. And someone has a extra mountain bike wheel to give this man, just please put it in the comments.
No, it means I'll have to take another mountain bike apart to fix one mountain bike, and I'm trying to minimize the disassembled bikes that I have.
All right. Well, everyone, thanks for joining. Nick, Troy, we'll talk again soon.
All right. Thanks.